Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. This is Wendy. Today I'm going to be doing 2 Dollar Tree DIYs as well as 2 upcycled thrift finds, and I'm doing this for my brother and sister-in-law's house, so let's get started. First I'm going to be using this large cross and an adhesive cork sheet, and this is actually a project that I'm doing for a friend request, and so some jute twine, some tacks, some Waverly wax in antique, and then a Sharpie paint pen, as well as a white paint pen. In this case, it's a Bistro chalk marker, and then a sanding block from Dollar Tree, and just my scissors. So the first thing I'm going to do is just sand away on the edges of my cross just to get the frays of the wood off of there. And then I'm just going to stain it with my wax. And I just use a paintbrush and paint over it. And then I'm going to wipe it off with a paper towel just to get all of the excess wax off of the wood. And this was a request by a viewer who has a confirmation class that, of course, we're not able to celebrate that sacrament because of the COVID. So they're doing something else and making gifts. And so Amy Moeller is my friend who is a subscriber and viewer. And so she had asked for some advice on what she could do with these crosses. So that's why we're doing this project. And this would be good for any kind of gift, even if it's not for a sacrament, just as a perky prize or just for your own home. So after I got the front, the sides, and the base all nicely waxed, I took my cork sheet and I traced out the cross on the back. Because of the base, it wouldn't lay flat, obviously, on the table. So I put the base over the edge of my table so it would lay flat. And then traced around it with a Sharpie and then just cut it out with my scissors. And the adhesive is so tacky that I didn't end up even needing to use my hot glue gun. So I'm just going to put that onto my cross and then make sure it's nice and flat and straight. And then I took my scissors and cut off the excess. There was just a little bit overhang, and so then I'm going to take my sanding block and sand those edges down so that it has a perfect edge. And then on the other side where it's stained, I'm going to use my sanding block again to give it a good distressing. So now on the cork side, I'm going to take my Sharpie paint pen and write "Let Go" and "Let God." And I'm leaving myself enough room on the edges so that I can wrap some jute twine around that. And then I'm going to go on the other side and write my saint's name. So when you're being confirmed, you have a patron saint that you choose that's kind of like a rock star of Christianity. And there's something that they're usually associated with that they become the patron saint of. So for example, St. Francis of Assisi was the patron saint of animals, or St. Joseph was the patron saint of woodworkers. Or my patron saint is St. Catherine, and she was the patron saint of artists. So you're kind of given this as a new name because in the Bible, there were 5 times when people were given new names. And so Saul became Paul, Abram and Sarai became Abraham and Sarah, Simon became Peter, and Jacob became Israel. And this was a way of signifying that they were embarking on a new journey or the next chapter of their lives, which is also like when women get married, their names are changed to their husband's last names because that's now a new chapter in their lives. So that's what this signifies. And at confirmation, you receive a big, huge dose of Holy Spirit. And so that way you're kind of armed and ready to go out into the world and become warriors of Jesus. So for Cadence, I'm using her patron saint, which is Padre Pio, and then I put her name at the bottom. And I got this idea from a retreat we did a few years back where we had made a cross and covered it with aluminum foil, and then I got some magician's flash paper, which is a paper that will burn instantaneously when you light it with a flame. And so the idea was to put our problems or a sin or something that we needed to let go of, or something that was a major trial or tribulation or something that we needed to just give to God. And so we would pin that to the styrofoam cross, and then after everybody did it, they were all touching, and I would light it, and then it just poof went up and it was gone. And that's the same thing that happens when we give it to God. So anyway, I think this turned out so cute, and Amy, I hope you like this idea, but I think the kids will love it and they can actually use it, and it's functional, and again, it's super cute. So for our next Dollar Tree DIY, we're going to need 5 of these foam dice, a wooden sign, and you want to make sure that this is deep enough that our dice can go inside of it, and then a package of wooden rulers, 4 of the tumbling tower game blocks, and we'll use those for the feet, and then some Waverly chalk paint in elephant and in white, and then some Waverly wax in antique, some painter's tape, some E6000 or Gorilla Glue, and then I'm going to be using the Silhouette Cameo 3 and some black vinyl and the weeding tools and my transfer tape. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my tray ready, and all I did was use my Cricut spatula to get the little holder off of the inside of the back. And so you want to do this kind of carefully so that you don't break it or rip it too much. And then I'm going to take my rulers and I'm going to pull off the little plastic measuring part, and then I'm going to take that into my garage and I'm going to cut those down to the right size. So as you can see, this is going to be a tic-tac-toe game, but we're going to put a little spin on it. But we want to measure to see exactly where to place our rulers and just make sure that everything fits all nice and snug. And then I'm going to take my Waverly white chalk paint and an Annie Sloan paintbrush, and my friend gave me this paintbrush, but I absolutely love it, and I just found out that these are like $36. So I would never spend that, but because it was gifted to me, I really appreciate it. And it does cover like a dream. So anyway, I'm just going to slap that on there and get that all nicely painted all the way around. This will serve as the tray, so you want to make sure that you paint the sides and the bottom as well. And then I mixed up some white and elephant to get a lighter gray, and I'm going to paint 5 of my dice in a light gray, and then I'm going to use a little bit darker shade for the other 5 so that you can tell the difference. And the easiest way to paint these dice is to hold 2 sides with your finger and your thumb and then paint all the way around, and then you can set it down on an unpainted side and then just paint the top by holding it in the corner and then covering up your little fingerprint. And then when that's all dry, you can pick it up and paint the unpainted bottom part. And this takes about 2 coats, sometimes even 3, or just some touch-ups. So now I'm going to paint my 4 Jenga blocks, and I'm going to hold it again and do the sides first, and then I'm going to set it down and paint the top, and then leave one side raw because that'll go onto the tray so you won't see that. And then I'm also going to paint my rulers, and all of these will be in the darkest, just elephant, without adding any of the white. So now to make the other lines, I'm just going to place a few of my blocks in there and then measure where the lines would go. Well, if that's vertical or horizontal, I guess it just depends on which way you're looking at it. But the rulers will go one way and then my painted lines will go the other way. And so I just put down some painter's tape on either side, and then I'm going to put another piece of painter's tape across from that so that I make a small little line between my little dice. So my favorite part of any project that has to do with painting is pulling up the tape. I absolutely love the reveal. And so anyway, I pull up my tape and then I'm going to place my sticks or my rulers going the opposite direction, and again I'm going to space it so that it works out right, and then I'll use my E6000 to get those in place and they'll stay put, but you have to wait till overnight. And I didn't add any hot glue because I didn't want any seepage at all. So now on the bottom, I'm going to take my 4 Jenga blocks and put them at the very corner in all 4 corners, and those will be our little feet. And then to give it a little more farmhouse look and make it look not so newly painted, I'm going to take my wax in antique and I'm going to go around all of the edges of my tray and then also on my dice all the way around the corners and the edges, and just make it look like it's old and used. So now I'm going to measure my dice and I'm going to cut out some shapes on my silhouette, and this is a good project to use scrap vinyl if you have a cutter of some sort. And so I just went online and looked for 2 symbols. I got a cross and a fish, and there's a really handy function that the Silhouette Suite has where you can take an image off of Google or whatever, and it will actually trace the image and detach it from the background, and then you can cut that out using your cutter. I don't know if the Cricut does that because I haven't had a chance to learn everything on that yet, but I'm guessing it probably does. I just learned this trick, and so I think it's going to be really helpful. But we've already spent with this project $7, and so this is kind of a pricey little project. But I am going to have these decals in my Etsy shop, which is White Sparrow Living. But you could totally use a paint pen to write either X's or O's. You could use the cross and the fish or whatever suits your fancy. So a little background on the fish and Christianity. This is a symbol that is used, well, it was used way back when Christianity was illegal and you would be killed for being Christian. So as a way to make sure that somebody you were talking to, or if there was a meeting or you wanted to worship together, this was the symbol that let the others know that you were in fact Christian. So they would hang a fish like on their homes so that you would know that that was where they were meeting. But it's just been a symbol ever since the 1st century of Christianity. So I love the shape of this particular one, and it's nice and chunky. So anyway, I just added those to all of my dice, and you'll have 1 extra one so that there's 5 for each player, depending on who goes first, somebody's not going to need one of them. So after I get these all done, then I'm going to put some little jute twine flowers on the front and back. And so to do that, I just took some jute twine and wrapped it around 2 of my fingers because it needs to be small enough to fit on the front and back of the tray. And I'm going to wrap it around 3 times, and then I'm going to put another piece of jute twine around that and only tie it in a half of a knot. And then I'm going to do it again and then put that second one into that opening and then tie a full knot, and then cut off all of my extra twine and then hot glue that to the front, and then do it again and do one on the back. And here's how it turned out, and I love this. It is so stinking cute, and I love the colors, and it's an actual functional game. So I know my kids and my grandkids are going to love playing with this, and it has a little sentimental value because of the fish and the crosses. And so I just think it's super cute, super farmhouse, and I hope you like it. So I found these chairs on OfferUp, and they were listed at $70, and then she marked them down to $40 and then ended up giving them to me for $30. And did you notice her house, by the way? It's super cute. Anyway, they're pretty beat up, but not really in any kind of irreparable damage. It's just all wear and tear, I guess, and so the coloring has come off. There were a couple of spots that I just had to pull out, but it's really structurally sound. So I also found these canvases, and I actually didn't find them. These were in my sister-in-law and my brother's house, and so she got these on OfferUp for $10. And so I told her, since we're doing her room there, we're going to take these with us and we're going to give these a little bit of an upcycle. And so I'm going to start with the chairs, and I'm going to make cushions. So I'm using some more of that drop cloth from Walmart and some hook and loop tape from Dollar Tree. And then Frisco Craft sent me some stencil vinyl. So I'm going to be using that, as well as some Waverly chalk paint in elephant and white. And then I'm going to measure the size of cushions that I need for these chairs. So I just used my yardstick, and this I got from my grandma and grandpa a long time ago, and I don't know if that upholstery shop in LA is even still around, but this is an old yardstick. So anyway, I'm just going to get my measurements, and then I'm going to jot those down because I only retain water, so I will totally forget. And so I'm going to cut out my canvas so that I can make the cushions for the chairs. So I forgot to add my iron and a sewing machine to my supplies list, but it's too late because I've already done that voiceover. So you want to iron your canvas, and then I'm going to get my stencil vinyl and put it on my 24-inch cutting mat. And then I used my squeegee to make sure that there were no bubbles or anything. So all I did was went to my silhouette suite and made a bunch of lines and using my box tool. And so I just measured the same length of lines so that that could be what I'm going to put on the top of my cushion. And so I did forget one very important step on this. I don't know where my brain was, but what should be happening here is I should have put my transfer tape on top of this. I don't know why I forgot, but I had to call in my daughter to help me and placed it down. I still didn't even realize when I was struggling with this that I had forgotten that extremely important step. So what you will do is put your transfer tape on top of the entire stencil and then put it onto your surface and then pull the transfer tape off. So silly me. So once I got that whole catastrophe onto the fabric, I went in with my Mod Podge and kind of sealed it so that it wouldn't have any bleeding. But on my second cushion, I didn't even use this, and the stencil vinyl is so good, you're not going to get any bleeding at all. And so the people at Frisco Craft, they just asked if I wanted to try this, and so I thought I would, and it works so good. Now you can get this for $15.99, and that is for a 50-foot roll. They also send me their matte black vinyl that you see me always using, and so that is only $17.99 for a 30-foot roll. So super good buys, and they're super sweet, so I really like to support them if I can. I'll have those items linked in my Amazon store, and you will be super happy with their product. So after I got all of my paint on, I'm going to take my transfer tape off, and you'll see how sticky this really is. I was struggling with this as well because it was so on there. But I just used a stencil brush, the little foam dauber thingies, and so I didn't like how splotchy it was though because the foam is round. So I just took a brush and then started working with it and made it a little more blended and not so blotchy. I knew I didn't want a solid coverage, but I didn't want the polka dots either. So now I'm going to take my canvas and I'll fold it in half, and then I'm going to get the measurements of how that cushion has to be tapered in. So I just measured the outside part and then the inside, and then made those two lines meet up and just drew a line so I would know where to cut it. And then I'm going to put my other piece on top of or underneath that so that I can cut that piece out as well. And then I gave it about an inch of a seam allowance, and then at the back where I'm going to leave a part of it open for my hook and loop tape, I'm going to give that one about 2 inches so that I can fold it over. So since we folded the canvas over, I won't have to have a seam in the front of the cushion. So I'm going to start at the back about a quarter of the way in so that I can have my opening to stuff it. And then I'll go out to the corner and then make that turn and then go off the edge on the side. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side, but in order to not have all that fabric inside of your machine, you're going to start on the other side in the front and then go back, and then you'll end up in the back of the cushion, if that makes sense. So then I just cut off the excess fabric at the corners so that you have nice clean edges, and then I'm going to flip it inside out, or actually outside right, and then I'm going to take my opening and kind of fold over those edges so that I can put my hook and loop tape in there, and that's what will close it up after you stuff it. And also this way you can wash it as well. And so to add my hook and loop tape, all I did was measure the opening, and then I'm going to fold my hook and loop tape in half and then put it on top of itself so that it's like stuck together. And then I took off the adhesive backing and then stuck it in on one side, and then took off the other side and added the top part of my cushion. And the adhesive is really good on this hook and loop tape, but another lesson that I learned is to not run any kind of material that has adhesive on it through your sewing machine, because I did that to get it all stable and in place so that it could go through the wash and so forth, but the adhesive got all stuck on my needle and it was a big old mess. So if you're going to attach it permanently, I would say to use a needle and thread so that the adhesive doesn't mess up your sewing machine. So now I'm going to add my fiber fill, and I actually didn't have enough for this, and so we're doing the redecorating of their living room soon, and so I just stuffed towels in there to show you guys at the end. So to paint the chairs, I'm going to be using this Rust-Oleum chalk paint ultra matte, and I get this from Amazon, and I never get these without receiving them all battered and dented like this, but at least this one didn't open this time. And then we're also going to be using our Wagner Paint Ready Station, and it's kind of dusty because we haven't used it in a while, but I first masked off the legs because I'm going to kind of whitewash those, and so I just used some scrap paper and painter's tape and then just wrapped those so that when we spray painted it, it wouldn't get those all white. So then I had Michael J go out and spray this, and the reason you're not seeing me on my intro or outro is because I look like a speckled little frog, because this kind of did a spit up of some sort and I don't know if it wasn't attached right at the beginning or what, but it was spitting at me, and so I'm all speckled right now in my hair, everywhere. So anyway, I wanted to get this video out and had to do it before sundown, and so anyway, this paint sprayer, when it's not spraying out on me, it really does a good job. And so Michael J just took it and he taught me how to use it. So this is a game changer, and I'm really excited to use this on some future projects. So he just sprayed these all down, and then afterwards, after they're all dry, I'm gonna take some white chalk paint and water it down, and then I'll paint the legs of the chair and then take a towel and wipe the excess paint off of that. And here's how these beauties turned out, and I am tempted to keep them for myself. Not really, But I know my brother and sister-in-law are gonna love these, and I can't wait for you guys to see how we come up with a brand new living room for them on a budget and using some Dollar Tree items and thrifted items. But I think these turned out so super cute and so farmhouse and fresh and just pretty, I think. And I love the white too. Anything with white just has my heart. And then you throw some gray in there and it's just beautiful. So I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. So now for this project, I'm just taking the 3 canvases and I'm going to paint them completely white using my Waverly chalk paint and my awesome Annie Sloan paintbrush. And I'm just going to give it 3 coats, I think total is what I ended up doing, because I really wanted them to be completely covered as far as not having any of the pattern underneath showing. And the pattern underneath, I always have a little bit of a hard time covering other people's art, and it really is pretty, but it just wasn't what we were going to be going for in her room. So after I got it all painted, then I'm going to cut out more of the stencil vinyl, and then I'm going to do a triptych, which is 3 canvases or 3 pictures in a row. And so I cut out 3 stencil pieces, and then I'm going to cut out on my 24-inch cutting mat the words that I'm going to put down. And then this is going to say "Be still" on one, and "No" on the second one, and then "That I am God" on the third one, and then Psalm 46:10. And so this is when I realized I was supposed to use transfer tape on my other project with the cushions. So you live and learn. But anyway, I put the transfer tape on my work surface and on my clothes so that I could have less stickiness on that, so that when I pull it up, it's a lot easier. So now I'm just removing the backing tape, and then I'm going to place that about halfway-ish down. I went down 13 inches, and the canvases themselves are 34 inches by 15 inches. So one thing about doing the stencil paper or the stencil vinyl on the canvas is that when I did pull it up, it left a kind of a sticky residue because there was so much stickiness to it. So I tried to get some of the tackiness off on my second go round using my hand, because I didn't want to put it on my clothes or on another surface because I was afraid it was going to stick to it permanently. So anyway, I just took my makeup sponge from Dollar Tree and I mixed a darker shade of gray but a little bit lighter than the elephant. And so I used that and I put it into a plastic container with a lid so that when I was getting ready for the second one, or if I took a break, my paint, I had enough of that same color so that it would all match, but it wouldn't dry out on me if I didn't get right to the next canvas. So I forgot to show you guys how this stencil vinyl works. After you cut it out, instead of leaving the words on and taking out the outside portions like you would with vinyl, you're going to do it the exact opposite way. So you're going to leave the outside parts on and take off the inside letters and leave the insides of those letters onto the backing paper as well. So I will also have these in my Etsy shop. So if you find some old canvas pictures at the Goodwill, once you get to go back in there, or you have something laying around, this would be a great way to give those pieces a new life. And they're not cheap, so anything we can use to recycle is always a good deal. So then to line these up, I put them next to each other and then put a straight edge across both of them, and then just rolled it out and laid it down and went through the same process of painting with my makeup sponge. And here it is all done, and I am super excited to get this up on their wall. I'm thinking we should have that video done in a couple of weeks, and I want to get her reaction also. Well, my brother's too, but you know, he's a boy, so he doesn't really care. And so I'm excited for them to have a new living space, and they deserve it, and I'm so happy that I can be doing this for them. And so I love how this turned out, and I hope you like it too. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell next to it, so that you can be notified every time we upload a brand new video. And I'm really appreciating all of the comments and the love that you guys have been giving me. And so I'm not able to comment on every single one at this point, but I am so happy that you all are sharing stories with me and your projects. And so just know that I love each and every one of you. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and let me know what you think. And above all, I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye.